Hello and welcome everyone to another Northbasics video on this channel and 10 more tips and tricks in Northgard. So in this little video I'm gonna show you different little hints and tricks that can help you to get your game a little bit more fluent or fast in Northgard. And I hope you can enjoy it and maybe take something out of it and maybe make use of one of the other tips. So enjoy! The first tip is actually a tip that I don't really use that often, so I should really make more use of this. It's quite important. A lot of good players do it and they get an advantage through this. So if I would want to build a lumber camp in this forest here, I could build it just right here. So there's no problem really in building it here, but there is a more efficient way to build it, and I would actually say you build it right here. Because usually the villagers will flood out of the town hall. You gotta think about that. Usually it's the start of the game when you build a woodcutter's lodge. So usually your villagers will all come from the town hall. And most of the times you will send villagers from the town hall to the different jobs. So to have a really short way for the villager to get to the wood camp, I would actually build a wood camp just right on the corner, so you have really short ways to change the jobs for them. Because the villager will always need to run through the building and then immediately start producing. So when I have my wood camp over here and another player would have it right there, I would actually always, when I send villagers to that particular wood camp, save a little bit of time and save a little bit of wood, and in the end I would just end up with a little bit more wood than he does. So keep that in mind. You can do that with other buildings and it will really help you out a lot. For the second tip, I made up a little situation here that I think everyone of us knows out of the game. You just want to get aggressive very soon and you throw up a lot of different war camps, and you just want to throw them up as soon as possible. Now you could just search for every single villager and right click on the building and they would start building it, and then look for another villager and so on and so on. But there's actually a little bit easier way to do this. So you could right click all your villagers and just right click through those buildings, and the closest villager to the building will start building this building. You won't see me using that too much in the start of the games, mostly in hard games, because in this game mode you will have a quite higher consumption than in other difficulties. And I don't want to have my wounded villagers working then in food jobs, so I mostly try to get my low villagers building the buildings, and not the full health ones, of course. That's why I don't use this, because this option will of course only choose the villager that's as closest to the building. So in late game situations this can be really helpful, like right here, because sometimes you just don't see a villager very close to the building, and of course you spend a lot of time looking for villagers generally, so you can save a lot of time just getting the villagers like this and pulling them to the buildings. You can actually do that with other things too. So if I would pull all these merchants out, you can actually just right click on all your villagers and right click on the buildings, and the closest villagers to the buildings will again start running to the building and start working in there. The third tip is actually going to be a tip again that I don't really use that much, but I should really use more often, since it can really help out in later stages of the game. And it is toggling the map to the military icons. So just right here you can see how all the resources will go away from the map, and you can only see military units there. And that can really help out a lot, since you can see right here, when you just hover over the map here, you could maybe oversee that there are a lot of military units on this tile, and after some playing with it, you will actually quite easily be able to say at roughly how many enemies are in the other tile just by that point, even though it can be quite confusing when the numbers get big. But it really helps out to have that open if you play a defensive play and just wait for the rush of your enemy and you already have them scouted already, since you can see how he's converting all his units. So For defensive plays, this is actually very crucial and helpful, and I should definitely use it way more, and it should be a good tip for you, since this year I didn't saw too many players using, but it is one of the most helpful things actually, I think, when you have your enemies out, to know when the attack is coming. Of course, there's like no better way to know, in case your enemy is not popping out his war chief right before his attack like I did sometime. The fourth tip is going to be upgrading your tools as early as possible. So you will sometimes see me delay my tool upgrading a little bit, and sometimes even see people in Twitch chat reminding me that I should do that right now, and most of the times I do, because I actually forget it then sometimes too. You should really upgrade your tools as early as possible, and if there's no really good reason why you want to delay it, like you really think there's a rush incoming and you want to just keep your 5 iron to be able to pop out your war chief at any time, because that could actually save you in that moment. Or you want to keep up the iron for some other upgrade for a building that you didn't build until then, but you usually really want to do that as early as possible. So it's always a little bit bad if your iron and crowns are always sitting on your stockpile, and in 803 or something you just decide, oh yeah, I'm gonna upgrade my farmers, and the question is, why didn't you do that just way more earlier? Because that can help you a lot more. It scales over time, so really good players I saw that they really have the first thing that they do is like upgrading one of their jobs that is important for their different play right then. So I sometimes delayed it a little bit too much, so don't take it totally from me. Upgrading the tools is very crucial in Northgard and should not be delayed. Another important thing would be to destroy old buildings that you have no use for anymore. So, like you see right here, I already scouted all of the map out, so why would I use the scout camp right here? So you can actually destroy it, and not only for the initial 40 wood and the building space, obviously, because you can use it then for something else. Will also lower the upkeep of your, because you will pay building upkeep for all the buildings that you build up, and just right now it didn't change because it should be on the tail now. Okay, didn't really change it up here, but it can make the difference here, and if you have some buildings that you really have no use for anymore, you should really consider to break them down. So you can sometimes see me when I go for a full trading attempt and have all my villagers on food, and just trade my food away with the trading post to some neutrals or my allies. I won't need the sailors anymore, to be honest, because I usually go for something else than in lore, and I don't need them to get gold for me, because that is, I have more efficient people to do my lore stuff, and I have more efficient people to do my gold stuff, so I don't need the longship dock anymore, and you won't see me setting new people in it, and sometimes it just stands around for some time because I'm not really sure if I want to break it down. But you should be sure when you need a building and when you don't need it anymore, and just in a second you are sure that you don't need it anymore, just break it down and get rid of it, so you don't pay the upkeep anymore. You can use the wood, and it will maybe even faster up your game then. You shouldn't do that in the same situation as I am right now in, but in the early game it can really help yourself out if you take the low villagers to scout out stuff, since you will not have the healer's hut up then as quickly. Like right now it wouldn't make me too much work to just get up the healer's hut and upgrade it so I can get the heal out, but in the usual early starting game in hard games I usually take my low villagers to scout, and in rush games of course too, since I don't want to build a healer's hut in there. And that will help you out because those villagers can die at the front, and you won't be too sad about that in that build, because there will be a new villager coming out and will have full health again and no debuff on him. So that helps you out quite a lot. So sending out low villagers for scouting really helped me out a lot, I gotta admit. So maybe try that out. So if you play in Northgard, there will be the time come where you will be attacked. So I saw a lot of players doing that in the earlier days when barricades were a little bit stronger, but it's really still a thing, I guess, because the hunters are still very strong. So you should maybe think about converting a lot of your vills into hunters if you get attacked, because they can hit and run just like an axe-thrower. So if an enemy would attack, you could just dodge him out all the time, attack, dodge, so always click him, attack him and run away with your hunters. And you will actually not need all too much hunters lodges to have a lot of hunters. You just will need to have your hunters walking or having them out of the tile to just convert more hunters in the same hunter's lodge. I'm just gonna show you how I mean that. I just right click those hunters, they are running right now. I send 3 more new vills in and they come over here. So these hunters won't work, of course, but this is a way to just get more hunters up and get big numbers. So just imagine like this tile here would be attacked and it would be my tile. I could just right now get a lot of hunters here, get them moving again, get them moving again, and just get more and more hunters, and maybe get them over here to defend there against the enemy. Yeah, the attack of them is just the same, I would say. No, it's actually 1 higher. I didn't know that. I just thought they were so good because of the micro, but they actually have 1 more damage than a normal villager, so that makes them even better. So very useful thing, and I would really say that it can help you out a lot. I don't know how familiar you are with villager defenses, but with goat it's quite possible, and if you have that amount of hunters, it's actually quite hard for a player with warriors or shield bearers to get through that, even though that shield bearers would have the same bonus against hunters as against axe throwers. So if you fight against upgraded shield bearers, it will actually get quite hard, but they can charge on you. So if you just hit and run, like you might know it out of other games, you can make a lot with those hunters and have a lot of fun with them. So maybe try that out. Yeah, there's a little trick to get a little bit bonus stone and iron out of the mines in Northgard, and I don't know if it's really a bug or it's intended, but it works for quite a while now, and it's always a really little help, but it's bonus stone, so I'm definitely gonna tell it to you. You can build the mining camp just right to the stone mine, but that won't really help you out too much, because in Northgard it doesn't matter how far the resource is away from the building, how you might know. The villagers will just start working, or then miners will just start working when they arrived at the building and start doing their new job, and they will just get a little rate up here, and it really doesn't matter how far away you are from that building. So for stone, I would actually tell you to go a little bit more right here. I'm gonna try to build it. Oh, okay, not a lot of space here to build it. Come on, bye building. Who needs you? Just gonna build it right here. Right here. So there's a really long distance between the quarry and the stone mine. And when now stone miners will run around between these both buildings, these both things, to mine my stone. And in the moment this stone mine here goes away, it can happen that one villager is still in the process of mining, or even both of them, and will still be in the process of mining, even though there's no stone left here, and run back to your quarry. So if you have actually mining efficiency on, and have 2 miners on this mine, there can actually be 2 bonus stone that can can come out of there. That's a little bit RNG based, because it can happen that your villagers happen to just stand around here when the stone mine expires, and they will just be right at the building and there will be no bonus stone for you. But in the usual cases, I say, like, if you have it built quite far away, you will usually get at least one bonus stone out of there. But yeah, it doesn't need to happen every time. It can just works as good with the iron too. So maybe try that out. It's, yeah, not too game breaking, but it is basically a little bit bonus stone that can help you out in the macro game. So in situations like this, it can be very tempting to go really high on your happiness count. So you could actually just take 2 villagers here, put them in there, and get the happiness up to 8, I think right now. Yeah, it should be 8. But I don't think this is the most, the best way to do this, since I would really usually recommend to stay between the 1 and the 3 with your happiness, because this rate will be very healthy for your eco, so it's not too much, not too less. And if you want to go higher with your happiness, I would actually recommend to doing that a little bit later in the game, because it will help you, of course, to get a lot of villagers done, but I felt like building the eco behind the more and more villagers is a little bit harder than having the brewers actually on eco and building up your eco with them. It's always is a little bit more fluent, I would admit, I would say, and would really recommend to go too hard on your happiness right here. So 3 is just perfect. It's not way too much, it's not too less, so we're just getting new vills here at every 35 days. The rate will go down the more villagers you have, of course. But I think this rate is always quite healthy, and it shouldn't be all too helpful to just rush them down there. Even though there are some strats where you can definitely do that, and these strats definitely have their place. But I wouldn't really recommend to doing that every game with every stat, because I tempted to do that a little bit because I knew out of other RTSs that more villagers are more good. But this is, of course, still true in this game too. But if you don't have the eco that can hold them up, it won't help you to just get too much villagers at the start. So you shouldn't drop with your happiness, in no point, but you shouldn't go all too high, in my opinion, there too. The only exception of this rule that I really want to point out here is the blizzard. Because in the blizzard all your production will be lowered down, but your brewery can still be full. So in blizzard I would actually recommend to just get the villagers out, because it's the only really effective thing you can do in blizzards. So if you want to feel like the blizzard still gave you something, and yeah, you can always try to build a brewery up there, get a really high happiness count, and just rush the villagers down while the blizzard is going on. But afterwards, I would actually recommend to pull some of your brewers back into your eco, so you can build that up before you go hard on happiness. And the last tip is going to be, some tip you might know already, but if you don't, it could be quite cool for you, since it can help to save a lot of time right here. So if you want to scout out this little ruin here a little bit faster than you could usually do it, just send 2 scouts to it. It will not work with the usual way, so you will need to wait until 1 scout actually reach the ruin. And after he reached the ruin, the other scout needs to be in the same tile than the other scout. You just send him right here, send your other scout away, and your other scout will start scouting with him. There's actually another trigger. I thought the scout just wanted to run there too, but this is the trigger where it will work all the time. So if you send both there, that won't work. The scout won't be working with him. Yeah, he will. So it seems to be gone already. But usually you can just 1 scout will start scouting with the scout camp. I just realized, yeah, it's just the same thing that I do right here, since they are in the same tile and I send it 1 away. It's just the same thing. So they just need to be in the same tile. 1 scout starts to be scouting that, the other scouts need to stand in there, and you send the scout just 1 centimeter away, and they will both immediately start to scout out this the ruin for you. It works with shipwrecks too, and it of course works on yeah, on the tiles of your friends too, but I wouldn't really recommending do that. So don't try to steal other people's rules like this, because they will usually notice and call you out for that. So, these were my 10 more tips in Northgard. So, I hope you enjoyed this little episode of Northbasics. If you did so, please consider to leave a like. If you thought I forgot something like here, right here, you can just write it down in the comments. But I think we're getting more and more into completion with the 20 tips here. But of course, there are definitely a lot more that I didn't talked about. So if you have something that I don't know, would be really cool to write it down in the comments. Yeah, see you back in the next video and have a great day, everyone. So, bye bye.